Have you ever sat in your own home, looked around? Everything's still the same, the familiar sofa, the rug you once chose so carefully, the family photos on the wall, and yet somehow you felt a quiet heaviness in your chest. Not because something bad happened, not because anyone hurt you, but just a vague fatigue, as if an invisible thread were wrapped around your heart, tightening a little each time you thought of the words tomorrow. Tomorrow you'll go to work again, you'll calculate again, you'll pay the bills again. The mortgage, the car loan, the credit cards, the utilities. And then there are the debts not written on paper, promises, expectations, responsibilities. Have you ever felt that your life doesn't really belong to you anymore, that you're living to pay, not living to live? I remember the first time I heard someone say that. His name was Richard, in his 50s, very successful. He had a house, a car, a stable job, a happy family. But one late evening, as we sat drinking coffee after work, he looked out the window, sighed, and said quietly, "I'm not free anymore. I'm just an employee of the bank. They pay me with my own debt." That sentence left me silent for a long time. I thought of so many people I'd met in my life, people always rushing, always busy, always saying they were fine, but with eyes that had lost their light. And I realized something profound. Debt isn't just about money. Debt is about the soul. I'm not talking about debt as a moral or religious issue. I'm talking about a state of being when you lose the power of choice, when you keep doing a job you don't love, living a life that no longer feels meaningful simply because you have to. Have you ever felt that way? Like you're trapped in the very life you worked so hard to build? Let's be honest, we live in a time where debt has become normal. Credit cards, everyone has them. Car loans, mortgages, student loans, it's just what adults do. But have you ever stopped to ask, when did normal start to mean inescapable? I once read a quote that said, "The cruelest prison is the one you don't realize you're in." And perhaps that's exactly what debt is, a prison with air conditioning, TV, and Wi-Fi, but no visible exit. I still remember the early years when I first came to America. I lived in a tiny apartment on the outskirts of town. Every night after work, I'd sit on a wooden chair by a small desk under a dim lamp. I didn't have much money, but I felt free. I could read until midnight sleep whenever I wanted, turn off my phone all Sunday without fear of a payment reminder. But now so many people have everything except that freedom. We've traded peace for convenience, time with our families, for possessions, health, for numbers on a statement. And the irony is, no matter how hard we try, we still feel empty. Have you noticed, every time we finish paying off one debt, a new one somehow appears? It's like a game where the reward for winning is another harder, more expensive level. And so we keep playing, because everyone says that's just life. But really, it's a dream designed by someone else. I've worked with so many people in their 40s, 50s, and 60s. They're no longer young, no longer want to compete, but they're still caught in that cycle. Must work, must pay, must endure. One man told me, "I want to quit my job, but I still have a mortgage. I want to move closer to nature, but I still owe tuition for my kids." I don't blame them, because the system is built to keep us there. It teaches us that to have value, we must have possessions. Yet the more we own, the more we become owned by what we have. The house you bought becomes the thing you must protect. The car you love becomes the burden you must maintain. And slowly everything you own begins to own you. I want you to imagine this. One morning you wake up and you owe nothing. No bills, no credit cards, no one demanding anything from you. What would you do first? Maybe you'd step outside and take a deep breath, feel the wind brushing through your hair. Maybe you'd make a cup of coffee and, for the first time in years, drink it slowly. No hurry, no worry, no calculations. Just being present, peaceful, alive. I think that's what true wealth really is. Not having more, but needing less. Not running faster, but knowing when to stop. I'm not denying that money matters. It gives us safety choices, comfort. But when money becomes the only reason we do things, we lose the meaning of work and of life itself. Psychologists have proven that when people live under constant financial stress, their ability to think clearly, create, even love all decline. Debt at its core isn't just financial pressure, it's existential pressure. It drains your mental energy and cuts you off from who you really are. I once asked an older man, "What do you regret most in life?" He stared into the distance and said softly, "I spent my youth buying things I didn't need to impress people I didn't care about." That answer stayed with me for years. We live in a culture that turns wanting more into instinct and makes feeling enough a luxury. But if we never learn to say enough, life will never ever feel enough. Maybe you're thinking, I don't owe that much. I've got it under control. Maybe that's true. But ask yourself, are you really doing the work you love, or are you doing it because you can't stop? Have you ever felt exhausted but kept going because the bills are due? If so, you're in the same prison as millions of others, just a different size cell. What saddens me most is not that so many people are in debt, but that so few realize they're in debt of freedom. Because when you think debt is normal, you stop trying to escape, and that's when the prison is complete. But you know what? I'm not telling you this to make you feel hopeless. I'm telling you this so you know there's another way. There's a way to live where you don't have to prove anything, don't have to chase anyone, don't have to spend money to feel worthy. A way of life where you can breathe easier, sleep deeper, and smile more genuinely. And I believe to reach that place, we must begin with an honest conversation about debt. Not just financial debt, but emotional debt, expectation debt, and the debt we owe ourselves. Because sometimes what truly exhausts us isn't the bills we pay, but the things we've never said, never forgiven, never let go of. Today I want to begin that conversation with you about debt, about freedom, about the journey back to owning your own life. There's no magic formula, no 5 steps to financial freedom in 30 days. But there are simple truths, and if you're willing to face them, willing to change, they can lead you out of that endless loop. Because freedom isn't a destination. Freedom is a way of walking one day, one choice, one mindful breath at a time. If you're ready, let's begin this journey together. By understanding this one truth, debt is not destiny. It's the result of choices, and with new choices, you can rewrite the story of your life. One, modern society has made debt seem normal. I want you to think about this. When we were young, we were taught to stay away from debt. But as we grew up, society started saying things like, how can you buy a house without a loan? Or you need a car loan to get to work, or you should use credit cards to build good credit. It's as if debt has become a rite of passage into adulthood. But you know what? Not everything normal is healthy. Today, debt is dressed up with sweet-sounding phrases like flexible installment plans, financial assistance, buy now, pay later. Those slogans make us feel like we're in control, when in reality, we're the ones being controlled. A friend of mine, a financial expert, once said, banks don't sell money, they sell the feeling of owning something you can't yet afford. And when you buy that feeling, you also buy the invisible rope that comes with it, tied neatly around your neck. 2, debt doesn't just take your money, it takes your soul. I've seen people lose sleep over debt, not because they're broke, but because they've lost their peace. They wake up early, stay up late, constantly working harder, yet always feeling chased by something unseen. Debt doesn't kill you with one blow, it kills you with 1,000 small cuts, each bill, each swipe, each insufficient funds notification. It turns once energetic people into defensive survivors. It transforms dreams into burdens. A Harvard study once found that people living under chronic financial stress have stress hormones 40% higher than those without debt. In other words, debt doesn't just drain your wallet, it erodes your lifespan. 3, humans crave instant gratification more than lasting freedom. We live in the age of now. Fast food, fast internet, fast results. But freedom, the most precious thing of all, never arrives fast. I once taught a group of older students about personal finance management. One woman in her 50s said, "It took me 20 years to get into debt, but I want to get out in 2 months." I smiled and said, sometimes slowing down is a way of moving forward. We have to relearn the art of waiting. Waiting until we can afford it, until we're sure, until we know what we truly want. Because often what you crave today might not matter a few months from now, but the debt, that'll still be there. 4, golden chains when high income can't save you. I once coached a corporate executive earning over $3,000 a year. He told me, I have everything, but I still can't quit this job. When I asked why, he sighed, if I quit, who will pay for the vacation home, the 3rd car, or my kids' private school tuition? He wasn't poor, but he wasn't free either. What trapped him wasn't bad debt, it was a lifestyle of debt. That's when you spend more to maintain an image, to prove something to the world. And so even though your wrist wears a gold watch, your soul still wears golden chains. I once told him, the price of looking rich is often a restless heart. He went quiet for a long time, and I think he understood. 5, debt is a game with rules written by someone else. Have you noticed, when you borrow money, you're stepping into a game designed by others? Banks set the interest rate, the terms, the timeline. and the game is rigged, so you almost never truly win. I'm not saying all debt is bad, sometimes it can be a useful tool, but only if you control it, not the other way around. A wise person always asks, does this game serve my goals? If not, don't play. Because every financial decision is a vote for the kind of future you'll live in. 6. Debt kills your opportunities for growth. When you're debt-free, you can learn a new skill, change careers, or take a few months off to rediscover yourself. But when you're buried in debt, choices disappear. You work because you have to, not because you want to. A friend once told me, I wish I could learn the guitar, but I can't. I have to work overtime to pay my bills. I asked, when will you be debt-free? He smiled sadly, probably when I'm too tired to work overtime. Debt delays self-discovery. And what's truly frightening isn't losing money, it's losing the chance to meet a better version of yourself. 7. Simplicity is the ultimate strength. I've met truly wealthy people, and you know what? They're simple. They don't show off or boast because they know true value doesn't need to be proven. Simplicity isn't poverty, it's wisdom. It's knowing what you really need and letting go of what you don't. Like cleaning your mental room, removing clutter to make space for peace. I often say, freedom begins the moment you start wanting less. When you stop running, stop comparing, you can finally enjoy the present without feeling behind. And that's the deepest kind of victory. 8. Debt passes through generations like a silent disease. I once counseled a family where 3 generations were all in debt. The father borrowed for his children, the son borrowed for his own kids. Each of them said, I do it for my family. But think carefully. Are we really passing down love, or are we passing down burden? Children don't just learn from our words, they absorb the way we live. If they see parents constantly stressed about money, arguing over bills, they'll believe that's normal. But it doesn't have to be that way. We can stop the cycle by changing our mindset, by living consciously, by spending intentionally. Let your children inherit freedom, not debt. 9. Freedom from debt begins in the mind, not in your bank account. Many people believe that to escape debt, they just need to make more money. But the truth is, you need to think differently before you earn differently. If your mindset stays the same, you'll spend the same no matter how much you make. Freedom doesn't start with an Excel sheet. It starts with one question. What do I really need to live a happy life? When you answer that honestly, you'll realize you need far less than you thought. And when you need less, you're free. Because freedom doesn't come from the balance in your account. It comes from the peace in your heart. True freedom is the power to say no. Freedom isn't having everything. It's having the strength to refuse what doesn't matter. Someone once told me, I knew I was truly rich the day I stopped being afraid to say no. When you can say no to social pressure, to spending temptations, to meaningless comparisons, you begin to own your life. You choose simplicity, kindness, and purpose. And, just like that, you walk out of the invisible prison you once built yourself. You might be listening to this and thinking, it's too late. It's not. Freedom has no age limit. The moment you stop, reflect, and decide to change, that's the moment you begin to live again. Debt is just a winding road, not a dead end. And if you've realized that today you're already halfway to freedom, you don't need to be rich to be happy. You just need to be less tied down than you were yesterday. And every time you choose awareness, simplicity, and the courage to say no, you loosen another link in the chain of modern slavery. Trust me, freedom is not a dream. It's the result of small conscious choices made again and again with clarity and love for yourself. You know, in more than 30 years of doing this work, I've met thousands of people, the successful, the struggling, the ones who think they're free, and the ones who don't even realize they're chained. And I've come to understand something. Debt isn't just about money, it's about the soul. We don't borrow money simply to have more things. We borrow to feel enough, to feel secure, accepted, worthy. But those feelings, though comforting at first, never last. They fade, and what's left behind is the weight. It's like drinking a gulp of salt water. When you're thirsty, the more you drink, the thirstier you become. Debt. The detour of those who once wanted happiness. I remember one evening in New York after a seminar titled Financial Freedom After 50. A woman approached me around 55 with tired eyes that spoke of sleepless nights. She said, I don't owe that much, just a few tens of thousands, but it feels like I can't breathe. I asked, why did you borrow? She smiled weakly. Because I wanted my daughter to have a fairy tale wedding. You see, we don't fall into debt because we're foolish. We fall because we love, because we want to bring joy to someone, to make them proud, to feel valuable. But love should never have a price tag, and a person's worth isn't measured by what they can buy. I told her, sometimes the best gift you can give your child is the lesson of freedom, not a lavish party. She cried, and I stayed silent for a long while, because I knew debt at its core is just another way we try to feel loved, accepted, and safe. But it's the wrong road. True freedom isn't running away, it's coming home. People often ask me, "Sir, how do I get out of debt?" They expect a formula, a set of steps that will fix everything. But I always say, getting out of debt isn't about escaping the bank. It's about coming back to yourself. When you pause and ask, what makes me always want more, you'll find deep down a fear of not being enough, fear of being left behind, of being less, of being unseen, and that fear is what keeps us running endlessly. But here's the miracle when you begin to accept, I am enough. I don't need to prove anything anymore. That very moment, you start becoming rich. Not in your wallet, but in your mind. That's the kind of wealth no one can take away. No bank can seize, no time can erode. Freedom begins with the smallest choices. Many think freedom comes from a big leap, quitting your job, paying off every debt, moving to the mountains. No. Freedom begins in small, quiet moments. It's when you stand before something on sale and say, I don't need this, I just want it. It's when you choose to walk instead of driving that expensive car you haven't finished paying for. Or when you can sit down, look at your wallet, look at your life and say, I'll live within my means, not within someone else's expectations. Those tiny moments are the first bricks that build real freedom. Escape the prison of comparison. I have a friend named John, once a high-powered advertising executive in California. He had it all, the house, the car, the luxury watch, the first-class vacations. But one day, he told me, I was never truly happy. Every time I saw someone with something better, I had to buy it too. He wasn't living his life, he was chasing someone else's. And that, my friend, is the root of debt. I asked him, John, if life is a race, who set the finish line? He went quiet, then laughed softly. I guess I never asked that before. Exactly. Most of us never do. We just keep running, not knowing for whom or why or to where. If you want to escape debt, first, escape the need to outshine others. No one truly cares what you wear, what you drive, or how big your house is. What people remember is how kindly you lived. Freedom doesn't need to be proven. I want you to imagine a quiet morning. You wake up, no overdue bills, no bank calls, no payment reminders. Just you, a cup of coffee, and sunlight pouring through the window. You breathe deeply and feel light. That is freedom. Not because you have more, but because no one owns a piece of your peace. Someone once asked me, how do you define financial freedom? I said, it's when you no longer need to prove to anyone that you're free. Real freedom doesn't shout or show off. It's calm. It's steady. Like the ocean after a storm, no longer loud, but deeper than ever. Freedom doesn't mean giving up everything. Some people think living freely means renouncing all possessions, living in scarcity. That's not true. Freedom isn't about having less, it's about choosing wisely. You can still have your home, your car, your comforts as long as they don't own you. I once told a group of students, freedom isn't about how much you have, it's about how well you can live with less. The fewer dependencies you have, the more peace you gain. The fewer your desires, the fuller your happiness. Freedom doesn't ask for perfection, only that you begin. Many people tell me, I know all this already. I just can't do it. I smile and reply, that's okay. If not today, then tomorrow. What matters is you keep trying. Breaking free from debt and mental prisons isn't a destination, it's a journey. You'll stumble. You'll feel lost. You might even return to old habits, but every time you rise again, you grow wiser. And that's silent progress, that's transformation. Freedom isn't for the perfect. Freedom is for the sincere, for those who truly want to change. Freedom, the final gift you can give yourself. When I turned 60, I realized something simple. No one takes their house, their car, or their watch with them when they leave this world. All that remains is the peace inside your heart. I've seen many people pass away with worry in their eyes, still chained by debt, regret, or the life they never got to live. And I always wondered, what if they had chosen simplicity just a little sooner? If you're listening now, maybe you're 40, 50, or 60. You've worked your whole life, sacrificed for others, strived to build something better. Now it's time to live for you. Not by adding more, but by letting go. Let go of fear. Let go of the urge to prove. Let go of the noise. Because when you stop chasing the world, you can finally hear your own voice, and within that voice, there is freedom. Debt is the modern prison, but unlike any other, this one has an open door. It's always been unlocked. You just have to be brave enough to walk out. You don't have to walk out all at once. Just pause today before buying something unnecessary. Just sit down and write what truly matters. Just say, no thank you, even once. Those tiny decisions will slowly take you beyond the invisible walls built by fear, advertising, and expectation. And one day you'll realize freedom was never something to find. It was always inside you. So if today you can stand on your balcony, look at the sky, and smile, knowing no one owns your life but you, then congratulations, my friend. You are truly wealthy. Not in your wallet, but in your heart. Not by numbers, but by peace. So slow down, spend less, love more, and never let any kind of debt, financial or emotional, steal the most beautiful years of your life. Because in the end, freedom isn't a gift from others. It's the gift you give yourself.